Good evening, and thank you for including veteran voices in this evening tonight. I want to thank everyone for coming out. A lot of us have been on other sides of the world. If there's anywhere else in the world where you could be right now, it's raining. You could be at home tucked in, getting dinner ready. But instead you chose to sacrifice that and come out in the cold and the rain, in community, together. Ooh, that was dramatic, I like that. And that's sacred, and I really want to acknowledge that with appreciation. So my name is Ryan Miller. I was born in San Francisco, raised across the bay in San Leandro. We got any transplants in the house? We love you too. Thank you for coming. After high school, I joined the Marine Corps. I was stationed in Okinawa, Japan. And from Okinawa, I deployed to Brunei, Bali, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, Hong Kong, Thailand, Australia, and Korea twice. Notice I didn't mention Afghanistan. Notice I didn't mention Iraq. And these are the top two places everybody asks me about when I self-identify as a veteran. And so for a decade, my 20s, after I got out of the military, I allowed that lack of combat experience to inform me of a lack of fulfillment, that I didn't do enough. Said differently, since I didn't die in combat on the battlefield in the service of my country, every day that I lived, I wish that I did. And this manifested itself in the way of comfort eating, depression napping, excessive pornography use, ripping out my toenails, obesity. I got up to 285 pounds. That's just when I stopped weighing myself. Alcoholism, failed career paths, failed relationships. And I hit that bottom. Was on that ledge. And through a lot of work, exercise, fitness, yoga, cannabis, I achieved a certain level of healing. And then I decided to help out my fellow veterans, and I started a support group for veterans, because Marines don't leave troops behind. Thank you. So exercise and service got me to a level of healing I didn't think was possible until I was exposed to psychedelics. And this is a recent experience for me. It was NN-DMT last January, LSD in March, and then the venom of the Sonoran desert toad in June. My life can now be described in terms of pre-toad and post-toad. Since then, I've been exposed to psilocybin mushrooms, and they've really just fortified my spirituality, fortified my inner resource. And I've begun sharing these experiences with veterans, because Marines don't leave troops behind. The first veterans I sat with was Mark, an Air Force veteran in the crowd, so thank you for coming tonight, Mark. And then winter came, and I experienced some romantic heartache, which for me is like kryptonite. And here I am, back in the darkness again. And then I received a ceremony by the way of psilocybin mushrooms and MDMA. And whoa, this was some like cosmic connectedness. And after the ceremony was over, I shaved my head, it's barely growing back. I still miss this woman, but not from a position of desperation and depression. It's like, we'll be all right, we'll be okay. And so in closing, as I want to mention, we have this psychedelic renaissance, right? We have this neo-shamanism. whatever that means. As we're curating this community, as we're commodifying sacred plant medicines, as we're appropriating indigenous healing practices, what are we going to do about access? See, all of those medicines and ceremonies that I received were gifts, or scholarships, because I couldn't afford them. How are we going to avoid bourgeoisie healing circles? How are we going to avoid trickle-down consciousness? And are we going to prioritize vulnerable communities? Are you willing to pay more for your ceremony to bring someone to the seat that couldn't afford it? If you want to support the veteran community and help me serve them, thank you, thank you. And so just in closing, really what I've learned about these medicines is that in times of crisis, death, change, loss, grief, there's plants, there's ceremonies, and there's healers to help us along with this grieving process. And you don't have to be in the military to spend time in the darkness, right? And if I could climb my way out, I hope sharing my story, you can too.